You also have, though, this sort of interest in, which is particularly pronounced in the current season of WL, spirituality of some kind, something beyond. And you're at the same time aware of the phoniness of a lot of the stuff. I mean, that's what Enlightened is sort of about, but it's also a sincere. You respect the desire for it, rather like the young daughter who's lying about why she wants to go to Thailand because of the monastery, et cetera, et cetera. You had an experience, right, where your career and work just led to a point where you're just like, I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah, it was in that I had a kind of shit the bed work experience where I was doing a show and I just totally, sent the email you're not supposed to send and send it to everybody and in the hopes of getting fired, but instead just the pressure got even more crazy. And it's kind of like when you're a kid, you want to take off school and you're like, oh, I don't feel well. And then if it's a big test, you're like, I really don't feel well. And then it's like, you're running a show. I'm like, I'm crazy. I'm having a nervous breakdown. So it was like, I was just trying to figure out how to get out of this fucking show. And so
what was the show? It
was called Cracking Up, coincidentally. Okay. It was like a Fox...
Appropriately enough.
It was like a Fox TV show.
Oh, yeah, it was Molly Shannon, right?
Yes, with Molly Shannon. It was right after... And it was supposed to, it was right after American Idol, so they wanted, to retain the 30 million viewers. And it was just, the pressure was, ridiculous, and I was not the right writer. Anyway, so I came out of that after almost being hospitalized in a mental hospital and had to escape.
But so it wasn't entirely an act. You were also.
No, I'd gone to a psychiatrist that my dad set me up with, and he was like, do you have suicidal ideation? And I was like, well,
a little.
Yeah, I want to throw myself in front of a bus, but that's not really that new. And then the next thing I know, I was being checked into a mental hospital, and I wasn't gonna have my own room. There's people unmedicated that are shuffling down the hallway. I was like, this is not. I'm just stressed, and they're like, you're here now, get the help you need. And I was running to my car. And I'd run to my car and I was driving back to I was checking my messages, and the shrink had called the office and said, Mike's not coming in today. He's not going to be in for a while. He's getting the help. He basically outed me as going to a mental hospital. So all these producers and executives who'd made my life hell were crying on my answering machine, being like, don't worry about the show. Get the help you need. And I'm on my way back to work. So I was like, So they canceled the show, and it was and I had to keep going back to this shrink and be like, I'm fine, I'm happy. And it was in that period that I was I stumbled upon some of these Buddhist self-help books. Or I mean, there's self-help books that obviously there's a Buddhist streak. Some of the concepts and philosophies were the underpinning of them. And I got a lot out of it. It was, I still, I think Buddhism there's a beautiful, it's a beautiful philosophical system, and it changed the way I thought. And I, at the same time, yes, the westernized version of it, or even there's, just like any religion or kind of, concretized set of thoughts, philosophical or theological thoughts can get, perverted by the world.
I'm a Catholic. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So anyway, so
what did you get out of it? What new thing you discovered about yourself and the work you're doing?
To me, it was another way of approaching life's issues, but I think the same solution, but just a different way of looking at it, which is to me, the writing of White Lotus, or the fictional writing, the playwriting is this flowering of self. You know what I mean? That we are not one self, we are many selves, and you're bringing life to all these different voices, and out of it, you don't see yourself as this literal thing going through life, and you can have you can step back from that self, and you can, you don't need to take yourself so literally. Do you know what I mean? And there's some kind of liberation to that, and And if people didn't take themselves so literally, like, I think that would be a good thing, a positive thing. And I think that Buddhism similarly sees identity as a trap and as a source of suffering, and that once you let go of self, and that you are, and I definitely believe this is true. For me, is that just, I think that, when you really study the mind and the way the brain works, like there is, like, it's like, the way, this idea of this self that goes through life is a created concept. And the more you do psychedelics, or the more you meditate, or the more you read, Buddhist works, or the more you just live, you realize there's this continuity of self, because there's this thing that contains that self that goes through life. But when you really go deep down, there's not a there. And I think that's, so anyway, I find it interesting, and I also find it helpful, and it helps you not get too serious about yourself, and take yourself too seriously, and
that is one of the odd things about the Buddha, the slight smile, the sense of, when they teach you how to meditate, they're like, don't take it so seriously.